Welcome, friends, to the Girl Mom Podcast. This is Kari, your host. Today's episode is for moms whose teenagers are in their final years at home. I don't know about you, but when my oldest daughter turned 16, something inside of me broke. I had several months where I cried all the time over a new season of parenting that would require me to slowly, one by one, let my children go. Even though I knew this season would come one day, it seemed so far away when my daughters were little, and my only goal each day was to keep them alive. Whether you're listening to this episode alone, with your daughter, or with a friend, I hope you find it helpful and relevant. This message is also available on my website as a new blog post. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. When my oldest daughter turned 16, I had a little breakdown. It started on a summer trip to Asheville 2 months before her birthday. I was taking her to Camp Hollymont, so we went a few days early to enjoy the area and get one-on-one time. We had the best weekend, complete with horseback riding, long walks, exploring the Biltmore, and seeing the Chihuly exhibit. On Saturday night, at a Spanish tapas restaurant downtown, I asked Ella how she felt about turning 16. Immediately, her face lit up, and from across the table, she beamed at me, grinning from ear to ear. "I'm so excited," she said. "I'm ready." Ella had said this before, "I'm ready," and logistically it was true. She was driving well and had driven most of the way to Asheville. But in that moment, something inside of me broke. All the worries, fears, and sadness I'd been harboring about my daughters growing up suddenly came to surface, and all I could think about was what older moms had told me when their kids left for college. They're ready. They're so ready. When it's time for them to move out, they're ready, and so are you. In the middle of that Spanish tapas restaurant, I started to cry. It was very out of character. Never before had I burst into tears in the middle of a restaurant. And like me, Ella was caught off guard. In typical teenage fashion, she lowered her head and darted her eyes around the crowded restaurant, checking to see who may have noticed. I told myself to get it together and to not take my daughter's happy moment and spoil it. Especially since this was our last night together before camp, I wanted to end on a good note. So I plastered on a smile and told Ella how proud I am of her. I told her how much I love her and how I love being with her now more than ever, which makes it harder to let go. What I didn't admit was the thought running through my mind that evoked the tears in the first place. You see, when she excitedly said, "I'm ready," it occurred to me how those two words, "I'm ready," had ushered in a brand new season of parenting. It's a season of parenting I couldn't have imagined when my kids were young and the days were long and my main goal was survival. It's a season that seemed remote as we moved into the sweet spot of parenting from ages 6 to 15, where I could catch my breath and enjoy my children without hearing the countdown clock to graduation. But in this new stage, I could suddenly see what's around the corner. I knew that in this new era, the theme will be letting my 4 daughters go, one by one, cheering them on and supporting them as they chase their dreams, move toward independence, and enter young adulthood. And while it's certainly exciting to see God's plan for their lives unfold, I already know I will miss them like crazy. Nothing makes me happier than having my family together under one roof, and with each step forward toward independence that my daughters take, there's pride yet also an ache inside my mother's heart. I know that again and again as I hear them say, "I'm ready. I'm ready to drive. I'm ready for college. I'm ready for a job in this new town. I'm ready to see the world." My heart will break a little because I really love where we are right now. Fortunately, God has a merciful way of preparing our hearts to let go and bringing unexpected blessings in each season. Seeing our children happy in their new lives makes us happy for them. Remembering how it's a gift to even watch our kids grow up keeps us grateful and brings perspective. In addition, I can look across the street from my house and see hope for the future. My neighbors with 3 grown daughters and almost 7 grandkids are having the time of their lives with their daughters and their families as they congregate often at their home. My neighbors are in their 60s and enjoying the harvest season of parenting, the fruit of all those seeds they planted many years ago. Watching them reminds me of what I aspire to. Yes, I want my daughters to stand on their own 2 feet and handle life on their own, yet I also want a relationship that makes them want to come home. There's no one right way to handle an empty nest. While some parents are emotional wrecks, others only feel excitement as they tell their children, "Roots and wings, do great things." Admitting that we feel one way or the other doesn't make us bad or better. It makes us honest. And the key to working through any life transition is to begin with honesty and proceed from there. Last year, as I struggled with thoughts of my daughters leaving home and felt lost for words, my friend Krista Gilbert asked if I would endorse a book that she co-wrote with Kari called Give Them Wings. It was divine intervention because what Krista didn't know was how much I needed the message. This book, originally printed in 1998 and now updated, contains wisdom from Krista, who's a few years ahead of me in parenting, and also Carol, who is a seasoned grandparent. I underlined this book like crazy, with passages like this that resonated deep in my soul. Transitions are tough. When we love passionately, we hurt deeply. Goodbyes are tough. Change is difficult. Losses cause pain. The exit of a child, especially a first or last child, forever alters the structure of a family and the definitions of individuals. The child's physical absence leaves a gaping hole in our lives for a time and often catches us by surprise, as if we never saw it coming. Our grief is real and a necessary part of a family's journey through transition. Carol Kuykendall. There were several months around Ella's 16th birthday where I cried all the time about inevitable changes and my fears about the world my daughters are entering. It's a terrifying time to be a parent, and dealing with grief or loss on top of that isn't for the weary. However, I needed to get some tears and grief out of my system to move forward and not waste my final years at home with my daughters. I want to enjoy them, laugh a lot, and finish strong. Since these years set the stage for our long-term relationship, which may last 30 or 40 years, far longer than their 18 years at home, I decided long ago to not wish this time away. I refuse to settle for the narrative that teenagers can only be survived. I've loved my daughters at every age, and though this current stage of parenting 3 teenagers and 1 tween constantly challenges and humbles me, I still like it. I love the laughter, the dancing, the TikTok videos, the driving them around with friends, the sorority house I have upstairs in my home with my daughters' 3 bedrooms together, and the sister bonding I see as my girls huddle and glance my way, because I know that even if they're talking about me, I'm okay with that if it makes them closer. I love the deep conversations, getting to know my daughters as real people, taking family vacations together, seeing their personalities and talents bloom, watching them act wired at 10 p.m. when I can barely stay awake, and catching glimpses of God's hand working in their lives. Some days it's really hard to see the good in this season or my kids. I get discouraged and feel like a failure, like pretty much every mom out there. But what I'm learning is to not dwell in discouragement. God wants all of us to parent with a spirit of strength and not defeat. And I believe teenagers are what turn parents into prayer warriors. The biggest upside of this season is its potential to grow our faith and keep us tight with the man upstairs. As my friend's husband often says, the older our kids get, the more we go to God about our children than we go to our children about God. Change is hard when we're happy with how things are. My daughter Ella is a high school senior this year, and I'm still figuring out the process of how to let her and her sisters go. What I appreciate most are the parents ahead of me who listen, empathize, and share stories of hope. A pastor's wife recently told me that while there are certainly blessings on the other side of change, it's okay to grieve the end of a chapter. She told me that when her daughter got married, she wasn't sad at all. They had the best time planning the wedding, and the actual wedding day was a dream. But while her daughter was on her honeymoon, she went into her old bedroom, and seeing this room empty because her daughter had moved out all of her old furniture into her new house with her husband, made this mother burst into tears. She said she sat on the floor and just cried, and when her husband came to check on her, she told him that she needed this moment. She needed to grieve this change before she could move on. Her story made me cry and realize that the heartaches I feel today are just the beginning. God willing, if I'm still here, there will be many bittersweet tears in the next 10 to 20 years for our family. Maybe my girls will get used to it, and maybe one day they'll understand why Mama sometimes gets weepy. Until then, I'll try and do them a favor by not crying in restaurants. I'll plaster on a smile, save the tears for later, and try not to spoil the moment when they excitedly say, "I'm ready," about a new chapter or life adventure. Friends, thank you for tuning in today. I'm so grateful to have you here. If you enjoyed this show, please tell your friends, leave a ratings or review, and subscribe on iTunes so you can access new episodes as soon as they drop. Also, my new book for moms of teenage girls is now available, and it's getting a terrific response, so check it out in the show notes. I'm thankful to be on this journey with you, and I'm praying for you and those special girls in your life.